very violent culture here. So, how, it was a great question Floy mentioned, how do you create a culture of human rights?
The one thing I want to add, you saw in the movie, the one guy, the Hisilayami was talking about why people want to die. It's beautiful life, not sure what kind of life we would get in next phase. This beautiful life, youth, young people, why they want to die? Means we want a freedom, we want a change, we wanted a fair environment for everyone, Dalit, indigenous group, backward societies, poor communities. We wanted changes. People, if you understand Nepal's movement, Maoist movement, only if you see, Maoist or communist or, Chinese communists, Russian communists, I'm not agree. Nepal's Maoist, their position is in the United States, Democrats and Republican position, same position. Election, elected government, there's no, autocratic regime or any policy. So one day, when many people, they compelled to leave their house because of policy, or they lose their job, or they feel parentless, guidance, like helpless, definitely they would come here, in our country, in India, everywhere. The reason of the conflict is the poverty and the distance between the government and the people. If people don't have direct access to the government, or government doesn't treat well to the people, and there would be a conflict. And in the 99% movement, Occupy Wall Street movement was one sign of conflict. So in United States, many people, or majority people, when they feel helpless, definitely they would come forward. And it happens all over the country. In Nepal, Maoist movement didn't start from Kathmandu, because Kathmandu people, they were enjoying. It was started from backward society. So poverty.
Could I ask a couple more questions? One is that it was mentioned about United Nations coming in, but I didn't see any evidence of it. And were they stopped, or did they actually come in? Did they do anything besides having the spokesman there? I mean, that was kind of confusing.
Oh yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question, and it's a great concern from our side also. We both political parties, after the peace agreement that happened in 2006, Maoist and the government, they requested to United Nations to send the mission to oversee the political process in Nepal. Maoist guerrillas, government armies, government armies are in the barrack, Maoist armies are in cantonments, and to monitor the peace process, they were in Nepal. They were invited in Nepal. They were functioning. They were doing their job, not great job, but functioning. They were trying. First, because of the political interference from southern side, India, and our parties' differences. Political parties couldn't make a common agreement, common point. They were divided. They were sold out. So they didn't extend the UN peace mission in Nepal, and they were kicked out from Nepal.
They were what?
Last year, kicked out.
Yeah, they were kicked out.
Oh.
They were pushed out from Nepal because of that, because they didn't extend their time.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, mandate time, you know. And we had another UN mechanism there, the OHCHR, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. There was also the part of the peace agreement. It's the same reason Indian pressure and the differences between the political parties, they didn't extend the OHCHR tenure. So they had to leave the country. So there is no UN mechanism now. You saw vehicles and spokesperson, the Ian Martin, he's also from the US. He's a good guy. Unfortunately, there is no UN mission. There is very few international organizations working on the ground now. Because of the government didn't support, political parties were not happy, armies, they, you know, directly they opposed.
Yeah, and just
And
to,
then
just to add real quickly too.
One quick question. What about the press now?
But I'm going to add real quickly, just because it's a concern of ours that we'll ask for people with help also. They're squeezing the space more and more for peace, as Jitman's saying. And so they had the UN, those two mandates leave. Peace Brigades International is one of the only ones left right now. And we're also being targeted by legislation, by more and more the government's requiring us to go to them and get approval to be able to accompany and protect the human rights activists. The increase in attacks on human rights activists is starting to happen now again, so there's a whole new wave of attacks. So we're very concerned about that. And the Carter Center is still there, and they'll be monitoring the elections, but it's a very kind of monitoring, observing role, not directly protecting human rights activists. And there's only a couple of there's a German group and a couple of others. But that's one thing that when we talk about what we'd like you to help and do for us, that would be something very important, because the Nepalis are going to be stuck without any kind of international monitoring or presence, which then ups the possibility for more repression. When you can't have someone there witnessing and monitoring, getting the word out. And now press.
The press condition is very poor. We don't have press freedom, actually. And I was one of the victims of press freedom. You know, the article I wrote, that was unconstitutional. That was a crime. During that time, according to Nepal's constitution, no one, you know, had a right to speak and write anything against monarch, royal palace. Situation is same, hasn't been changed. Batsala, the movie based on my book, we had planned to screen here today. We couldn't, unfortunately, we couldn't get the copy. That was based on my experience and book. That was banned in Nepal. They didn't allow them, permit them to screen in Nepal. The producer, the director, they compromised with the government and they, you know, edited. They took out some of the torture scene. So now they are screening. So full version movie is still banned in Nepal. Journalists are divided. I have been all the time, through articles, through speaking, I have been asking, I'm also a journalist, writer, I'm very worried. What is the religion? What is the main theme of the journalist? What I see, I have to write. But that is not happening there. Most of the political journalists are affiliated with political parties, and they write news as per their ideology, political ideology. They are not fair. So to get a
propaganda,
just the media is used by political parties, and journalists are affiliated with the political parties, and it's not fair. And government is also not fair with. They don't like to the press freedom. So it's.
And who's next? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about tomorrow's event real quick.
6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be announcing that at the end, but go ahead, sir.
All right. In the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that out of all
Yeah, it's fine.
out of all the cases of human rights violation in Nepal, 90% is from the state and 10% is from the Maoist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the data to back it up, but I've seen enough to make an assumption to say that for me, Maoists are in as much as are in states, when it comes to right violation. Because when you look at some of the testimony from the videos, you can clearly see that there has been a human right violation when it comes to recruiting, right? And we have seen kids like 13, 14-year-old kid in a war. I mean, you cannot justify that.
Yeah,
We're going in a war with 13-year-old kid. So, and you mentioned that, because of the violation that the state did, you took King, like previous King, to the court of law, right? So my question is, did you do similar thing to Mr. Prachanda or Baburam? If yes, what happened? If not, why not?
Yeah. Human rights organizations or court or justice should be fair, not based on face and political ideology. The percentage we are talking is based on the reports. How many numbers, killing 1% and 5%, like this kind of 1,300 people, civilian have still missing. They have been disappeared according to the ICRC report. According to that report, if you look at what side, what percentage, 90%. The report shows that 90% people were disappeared from government side, and 10% were disappeared from Maoist side. And the killings of the 16,000 people nobody has accurate data. How many people were killed. But there is this is the rough figure, 16,000. Let's say how many people were killed by government side and how many people were killed by Maoist side. So this is the figure. And we don't say Maoists were clear, they were fair, but they were also involved, kidnapping of civilians, or torturing of those peoples, you saw in the movie. And equally, percentage-wise, there was a high number from government side. And you asked, what about Maoist? We have been asking Maoist, perpetrators from both sides, whoever was involved in human rights violation, or who was, who killed people, who directed or who ordered, instructed to kill people, those people have to be brought to the justice. The problem is the evidence. The evidence, there are several hundred army officers, were involved, but very few army officers, we have evidence, so we are bringing cases. To bring a case to the court, we have to do a lot of research, collect a lot of evidences, prove. Without proof, if we go to court, we cannot prove he was, involved or he was
Guilty.
Yeah, guilty. So we have been working, human rights organizations, my team, the Lawyers Forum for Human Rights, we have been working, and some of the cases are already brought to the court, like some Maoist lawmakers, their cases are in the court. We have been supporting, helping victims, discussing with them how much we could do. So yeah, the justice should be fair, not one side, not other side.
Yeah, but my question was did you do it or did you not?
Because it's your
Do you mean,
case,
did
it's
he
the king
write
responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
articles critical of the Maoists?
No, not Maoist. Did he
Because it was
Bring
your
a case
case.
against them.
against Maoist leader?
No, I already gave the example. We have a couple of cases going on in court. Some cases are in the Supreme Court, some cases are in the police office still investigating.
Is it against particular individual
Person. Otherwise, we cannot just, oh, Mao Prachanda, he was also in, without proof, we cannot bring, so.
16,000 people we're talking about, like, getting approved.
No, the case is, as a lawyer, if you go to court without any proof, evidence, you have to, first phase,
Chain of
you need to
command,
get, you need to get the evidences. So it takes time to get evidence, they were directly involved or not.
I think, in my point of view, people are more threatened by Maoists in the village area, and they were threatened to go. Even in the place where I come from, like the Maoists used to come.
Where you?
I'm from Cabre.
Oh, Cabre.
It's close to the capital, but like the Maoists used to come and like they say like, oh, one of the member has to go to their group to fight with the army. So like we were three brothers, and like it was like sometime we had to discuss like who has to go, like we didn't have to go, like but they used to come and like tell people like somebody has to come. And during the even election, like they threatened like if you people do not vote us, like then maybe we go back to the again
Revolution.
fighting and again like
Yeah.
and people were threatened, and they didn't claim their to the human rights, or they didn't claim what the threaten was, and they so I think the report does not clearly shows what actually happened. So in my point of view, I think Maoist and government both are like equally responsible for everything, and maybe the data do not show what the actuality is.
Yeah, there are a couple of places I visited. So in some certain areas, Maoist victims, their numbers are higher, and in certain places government victims are higher. But both, yeah, I agree. Both were involved, and the idea of threatens is still is being used from any political. I mean, not one particular parties, but from third eyes, from ethnic groups, or UML Congress, their sister organizations. So it's threatening.
I have a short story to tell you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Use the mic.
Use
Use the mic.
during the election, like my uncle, he lives in Kathmandu, the capital city, and like his name is registered in like Cabre, the village area, and like just before the night of the election, he came back from the capital to vote in his place, and like me and my cousin and my uncle, we went to the village so that he could vote next day, and we went to just with him so that like maybe nobody threatens him or attacks him, just for the support, and like the night what happened is like almost like 20 to 30 Maoist people came, and they said, oh, you are from different party, and like you want to pay money to the people around, and so you cannot come and vote here. And like we were like we had to walk like 3 or 4 hours the night, and we had to come back, and like my uncle didn't get to vote there. Like I think it's just one example I felt, and like there are many more cases, and I have seen like even my friend, he was threatened, and I had like so many cases.
Yeah,
seen.
yeah.
I don't have like very good feeling about Maoist because I was never related with army, or nobody from my family background is in army or in Maoist. But like the pressure or the torture, threaten people have got from Maoist, I have seen that, like as shown in the movie, the Maoists come, like 20 to 30 Maoists come to his house every day and ask for food. And like one of the committee head of our area, like 20 to 30 people come every day and like ask for food, and they say, oh, you are the rich people, you have to feed us every day. And like he was like, he fed every other day, but like he was fed up. And the next day, like he locked the couple of Maoists, and then he called the cops, police, and but the Maoists were, before the cops arrived, the Maoists were able to escape. And next day, they brought so many Maoists and just took him and killed him so badly, like his head was chopped off and like on the street, and we could like even I was just going and that it was like on the turn, and
Yeah.
it was like they cut off the body in pieces and like
Yeah.
it was like so terrible. I had like very bad experience with what I have seen from the human
Yeah.
rights point of view. So I don't know much.
Yeah,
about
people have different people have you know everyone has different experience
Yeah,
and the feelings
yeah.
It was
the
a brutal
point I
civil
want
war,
to say
right?
is
yeah,
like,
yeah. People, it was war, so everyone affected, as a witness, as a victim, directly or indirectly,
it was due to election. So
and
2008, maybe.
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, people
Just
were
before I came
affected.
here.
It's a conflict, and people were affected, and great, it was everywhere within Nepal, even it spread to India and China. We have some cases. People were affected there.
Yeah, one of my friend was like he was abducted because his father was a different party member, and like he was taken and he was like seemed like blindfolded and taken for hours. Had to, and like he could get out from two of the Maoists, and like he ran away, and the, like next day when he was on the like swimming and on the tube, and somebody sued him and like the tube blast, and like next day he escaped, came to the capital, and like and he told the story, and it's like
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was one story. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
One army major was running a restaurant resort in Dolakha. Just if you go to Dolakha, Charikot is 10-15 kilometer ahead before reaching to Dolakha. The army major, he was a former retired major. He was running a restaurant there. And Maoists, they came, and nobody knows what was the reason, but they, blew up his restaurant, and he was killed. And later I heard, what's people have, whoever have, if he is not directly involved in killings, and he, only being army or being connection with the army, it's not a crime. And I was so sad. There are many stories, this kind of, sad
Yeah.
stories.
And I just wanted to say too that for me, the movie, it's hard to be exactly objective with exactly but for me, watching it, I really got the sense that, first of all, it was trying to show that, poverty is violence. And I think that's important for us to remember that, if you have poverty, it's the same as being shot. A lot of times, actually, you die a longer death, more painful. So, poverty in itself is violence. And I think that created the movement toward getting rid of the monarch, et cetera. But obviously, once it gets started, I think it showed it was on both sides. There was a lot of violence. And as you're saying, you're giving a lot of good examples, and there are a lot of reported examples on both sides. And then at the end, I think it showed, and where we are now in Nepal, is that there are the gundas, the gangs. People have learned that guns are the way to settle things, right? And there's so many now indigenous groups, and a lot of those are saying, well, we should use violence now. And then there are a lot of people, like a lot of you all, who are saying, let's try nonviolent struggle, let's try peacefully to get to justice. And that's really the only way that we're going to transform long term, because the violence begets violence. And as you're saying, if you experience that, then that person's going to hate their neighbor or the Maoists, like we saw in the film. And Jitman's experience of horrible torture, how can he trust an army sergeant or a government that put him through that? So, I think it's on both sides, and I think it's really, you know, everyone has really important stories with that.
I actually feel like this conversation, we're just scratching the surface here, and
Yeah.
if you'd like to continue talking to Jitman afterwards, or come tomorrow.
Yeah,
You
we'd
know,
love
we'll
to have everyone
yeah.
there to continue.
So tomorrow it's at 1211 Roma Northwest, Bella Roma. At what time is it at 5:30?
It's 6:30
6:30?
to 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
6:30.
And it's getting late, so I'd like to wrap this up and thank Jitman Basnet and Catherine Hughes Freitag from Peace Brigades International for doing this evening, for showing the film, for having the discussion. I think we've all learned a lot.
Thank
I
you
hope
all, yeah.
people can open up their hearts and their checkbooks to donate to this worthy cause of the Rural Nepal Health and Education Project. It broke my heart to see some of those kids. But let's hear a round of applause for
And thank
Jitman
you
and
all
Catherine.
thank you, the audience.